When Siddharth asked me to talk about my development work and then compare that to the cycle yatra, as he calls it, I think the first thing that came to mind was to know your limits and to ask yourself the right questions. So I'll start with a story about the cycle ride. The last day of the ride, I didn't know it was going to be the last day. But the last day of the ride, I was looking at an expansive miles and miles of plains in Kansas. And there was probably a 40 or 50 mile headwind. And I was going, and I just broke down crying. I was completely at an end, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I realized, and it was only like 5:30 in the morning, so I was thinking to myself, one, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day, and is this a point where I need to stop? And I had it in my mind, I wanted to get to Colorado, and I was about 2 weeks of riding away from Colorado, so I had to make a decision, and I just stopped, and there was no critical thought process, there was no kind of mental dialogue. It was just this very clear voice inside that says, okay, Arathi, it's time to stop. So I got off my bike, and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna stop now. So I need to find a place to stay, and I need to figure out how I'm gonna get to Kansas, because I was 400 miles away from Kansas, from Colorado. So I stop on the side of the road, and I'm thinking about what to do, and this guy pulls up in a truck. He was a really big guy, and he was driving a really big truck. I think he had a couple dogs in the back, and I was like, oh God, I don't know. So I said, yeah, we need a ride to, there was a friend that was staying about 70 miles away, so it was about an hour's ride for them. And gas prices in the US are high now, so it's not so easy to just get a ride an hour out of somebody's way. So, we kind of explained to him what we were doing, and he said, yeah, I just have to go to church to pick up my kids, so if you guys want to come to church with me, I'm happy to drop you off. So we get in the car, throw our bikes in the back of the car, and drive to church. And then, within seconds, I'm in this church. It's the preacher's birthday, and there's cake, and lots of kids running around, and so much love, and it was so beautiful. And this guy was saying, I was at home reading my Bible, and I was going to go to church today, but I just wanted to stay home in silence and just read the Bible. And I got up to leave so many times to go to church, but I just kept staying in my seat to read the Bible. And then when I finally left, he's like, I'm so happy I left when I did, because I was able to run into you guys. And it was such a serendipitous moment, and I literally did at that point break down, and I just knew I couldn't go anymore. And to have him come then, there was so much beauty on the trip like that, and it was just such a small example. But he was able to take us to church and to be with us that time, and then dropped us off an hour out of his way. It was really amazing. And then we ended up hitching a ride to Colorado, and it was not a problem at all. I got there in time for my flight back to California. It was fine. So, but in any case, I think that experience was important for me, because, I went on this trip to hear myself deeper, and it was very important to be silent with myself and to understand, create my own definition of service, not the definition I read from books, and not the definition I hear from circles like this, but what is my own Arthi's definition of giving back. And I think sometimes it's hard to hear that voice when you're always surrounded by so many thoughts and ideas. And I'm a go with the flow kind of person. I hear somebody's idea, I'm like, yeah, I like that. Somebody else's idea, oh yeah, I like that too. But I wanted to engage in a process that helped me understand my own definition. And in that process, I really realized that I have to ask myself the right questions and good questions and be critical of my path. And to hear myself deeply. And one good example of that, which also kind of comes up right now, the bike trip. We were in the middle of a cornfield in Indiana, and I was on the side of the road looking at the map, wondering where to go. And all of a sudden, I look up, and there's this big blue bus coming towards us. I'm in the middle of a cornfield in India. There's nothing for miles, so I look up, it's like, wow, what's this bus? And painted on the bus, it says, Pick Up America. And there's trees and flowers and stuff painted on the bus. So anyways, the bus stops, these kids come out, or young people come out of the bus, and they tell me that they're on a journey, walking across the US, picking up trash, and raising awareness about climate change. In the middle of a cornfield in Indiana, I run into these people. I mean, it was completely ridiculous. So immediately, I said, well, we're doing this random acts of kindness ride. We'd love to join forces. Can we serve in any way? So we end up picking up trash with this group for 4 or 5 days. We stopped everything, and we stayed with them, and we learned about their journey. And this was their second year of walking. They were really amazing people, and I was very inspired by them when I first met them. So, after a couple days of being there, though, I realized these guys are really great, but there were some internal things that just wasn't jiving with me, and it doesn't necessarily matter what they are. What matters is that I was able to be in a space there, even then, when I was consistently asking myself the right questions. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing things in this world, but I think I have to always be true to the path that I want to follow. And sometimes, I think from that experience, from the outside, they were doing amazing work. But really internally, I didn't feel that connection. I didn't feel that heart space vibe, and I had to follow that feeling. And I think that was important, because I really learned about looking at my own compass again and listening to those questions inside. Because I think sometimes, especially in the space of development, I think it's easy to be swept up by movements, swept up by there's so many magnetic people. So easy to be swept up in these things, but it's so important, I think, when I learned, and to just keep that silence. And I had to, because I was biking by myself the whole day, and I didn't listen to any music. So I was forced day in and day out to be silent and to be thinking about sort of those questions I was asking. And it was wonderful in guiding me. And so now, shifting to the work I'm doing now, I think it's been a very intense experience of failure, and respecting that, my path is not a straightforward path. It's circular, and and I have felt in this process of working here, maybe you could say a step back, but definitely confronting different edges. And just to give you guys a very brief idea of what I'm doing in India, which is nothing compared to what you all are doing here, so it feels weird talking about it. But I was just approached by a boss of mine that I'd worked with in graduate school, and she said, I have a relationship with somebody at the Public Health Foundation of India, the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights in India. We're trying to do this big project with railways children. Can you lead the project? And I didn't I didn't know that this was coming, and it seemed at the time like a great idea. So I said yes, and I jumped at it. I jumped at it without thinking it through enough, with enough detail. I just thought, oh, this sounds great. I'm gonna do it. And it's been very tough, working in this space, and not having the creative constraint of silence that I had created for myself on the bike ride by just forcing myself to be alone every day. In this sense, losing a hold of that has shown its fruits in ways that I didn't expect. And I was telling Guri earlier, when it hit me, the depth of sort of confronting that failure in my own self was just last week. I was in an auto rickshaw. I had just come from a morning meeting where we were talking about, we had just interviewed 100 railways children, and we're talking about abuse, whatever. And I was feeling pretty sad at the meeting, actually, and coming back on the rickshaw. And this child came to the rickshaw, and we were stopped, and he was begging. And the auto rickshaw driver went to slap the child. And I caught his hand. I said, please don't hit the child. It's fine. Next, smaller child comes to beg at the rickshaw, and the auto driver slaps the child across the face. And I got so angry that I hit the auto driver. And then I got out of the auto rickshaw, and I didn't pay, and I just left. And then I was, first of all, in a part of Delhi, I had no idea where I was. And then I just couldn't even believe that I did that. I so deeply believe in nonviolence, and I hit somebody. I can't even remember the last time, when I was like 10, hitting my sister, over some Barbie doll or something stupid. I didn't, it's just, I think that there's been, this process has been an acceptance of, reaching an edge, or going to a place that's not pretty, that's not, that's not an amazing part of yourself, but it's a real part of yourself, and it's a true part of a reactive nature, and accepting that and confronting that edge with it in an honest way, and so that's kind of been the journey now. And I think what I just keep coming back to again and again and again, I think is, am I asking myself the right questions in my own path? And I think that the right questions arise with silence. And Mukesh Bhai just told me, Arti, any question you ask me, don't ask me any questions. It's just words. Silence is, where the real wisdom is. And I think that's true, and something I try to hold deep.